You know this person. Maybe you are this person. They will spend 4 hours designing the perfect productivity system, then never open it again. They will dream about the business, sketch the logo, imagine the launch day, and then lie in bed at 11 a.m. scrolling through other people's success. Ask them what they want out of life and they will tell you, in vivid, specific detail. Ask them what they did today and the answer will be almost nothing. We call this contradiction laziness. But something stranger is hiding underneath it. Because these are not unmotivated people. Their minds are running at full speed. They are ambitious in a way that borders on obsessive. So why can't they move? To understand this, we have to go back further than modern life. Further than deadlines, further than to-do lists, further than the idea of productivity itself. Your brain was not built in an office. It was built on a savanna, in a body that had to survive on a fixed and unpredictable amount of energy. For most of human history, food was never guaranteed. A hunt could fail. A season could turn hostile without warning. The brain that kept your ancestors alive was not the brain that worked the hardest. It was the brain that spent the least energy for the highest chance of survival. This is the part almost nobody tells you. Your instinct to avoid effort is not a flaw. It is one of the oldest, most successful survival strategies your species ever developed. Neuroscientists studying decision-making have found something remarkable. The brain treats mental effort almost exactly like physical effort. It measures it. It prices it. And whenever possible, it looks for a cheaper option. This is sometimes called the law of least effort, and it explains something that feels deeply personal but is actually universal. Your brain is not broken when it resists a task. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do, calculating whether the reward is worth the cost. Now add ambition into that equation, and something fascinating happens. Ambitious people don't dream in small increments. They imagine entire outcomes. The finished novel. The successful company. The transformed body. The recognition, the freedom, the different life. Psychologists have a name for this vivid mental rehearsal. It's called the fantasy realization gap. Your brain, picturing the destination in such rich detail, tricks itself into feeling like it has already made progress. Dreaming about the goal produces a small hit of the same neurochemical reward that achieving it would give you. Which means, in a strange way, imagination can quietly compete with action. So the ambitious but lazy mind is not lacking desire. It has too much desire, aimed at a future so vivid that the present feels unbearably slow by comparison. This is where the second piece of the puzzle appears. Studies on procrastination point to something surprising. It is rarely about time management. It's about emotion. A landmark line of research from psychologists studying self-regulation found that procrastination functions as a mood repair strategy. When a task threatens to make us feel inadequate, bored, anxious, or exposed, the brain doesn't see this as a scheduling problem. It sees it as a threat to be neutralized right now. And nothing neutralizes discomfort faster than closing a laptop. Here is the twist almost nobody expects. The higher someone's ambition, the higher the emotional stakes of failing to reach it. A person with modest goals risks a modest disappointment. A person dreaming of something extraordinary is risking the destruction of their own self-image. And so, counterintuitively, bigger dreams can produce bigger avoidance. The gap between who I could become and what I did today gets so wide that opening a single document can feel like standing at the edge of a cliff. This explains a pattern therapists and researchers have observed again and again in high-potential but chronically stuck individuals. It isn't that they fear failure in the ordinary sense. They fear finding out that their best effort might not be good enough. As long as the project stays unfinished, the dream stays alive. The moment it's tested against reality, it either succeeds or it doesn't. Avoidance protects the fantasy. This is sometimes described as a self-worth protection strategy, and it is far more common in intelligent, high-achieving people than in anyone else. Which raises an uncomfortable question. What if the very thing keeping the dream feeling possible is the same thing keeping it from happening? There's a biological layer to this too. Ambition is largely governed by the brain's dopamine circuitry, particularly a region involved in anticipating reward. But dopamine doesn't only respond to achievement. It responds even more strongly to the possibility of achievement. Slot machines exploit this exact mechanism. So, in its own way, does an ambitious mind replaying an imagined future on a loop. The brain gets rewarded for wanting, almost as much as for getting. Over time, some people become extremely skilled at wanting, and comparatively untrained at doing. Now picture your ancestors again. Picture a hunter deciding whether to chase an animal across open ground. The decision to act was never separate from the decision to conserve energy. Every calorie spent moving was a calorie that might be needed later to survive a cold night or an empty week. In that world, someone who hesitated before committing to an uncertain, exhausting pursuit wasn't foolish. They were calculating risk the way their entire lineage had learned to calculate it, generation after generation. You have inherited that exact calculator. Except now, the predator is a blinking cursor, and the energy cost is not physical exhaustion but emotional exposure. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It still asks the same ancient question. Is this worth the risk of running out of resources? This is why willpower alone rarely works for this kind of person. Willpower is a blunt tool trying to override a highly sophisticated ancient prediction system. What actually changes behavior, according to behavioral scientists, is altering the perceived cost and the perceived risk of the very first step. Not the whole mountain. The first inch of the climb. Which brings us back to where we started. That person, imagining an entire future in stunning detail, yet unable to begin. They are not lazy in the way the word is usually used. They are running one of the oldest, most finely tuned survival systems in the natural world, a system built for scarcity, danger, and uncertainty, now firing inside a world of infinite tabs, infinite comparisons, and infinite imagined futures. Maybe the goal was never to defeat this system. Maybe it was to understand it well enough to work with it instead of against it. Because the ambition was never fake. It was simply louder than the very ancient, very human fear standing quietly behind it.